staying tuned. Oh, today is the 26th of December. It is celebrated as Boxing Day.
Boxing.
Yeah, while the name might evoke images of the sport of boxing, it is not that. It is a day historically tied to acts of kindness and generosity. We'll be exploring the topic Boxing Day, the attitude of giving. Joining us is our guest, Reverend Dr. Olurotimi Taiwo. He is the chaplain of the Lagos State Chapel of Christ the Light in Alausa, and he will guide us through the significance of giving, the impact on society, and how we can all cultivate the culture of generosity in our everyday lives. You're welcome again, Reverend.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I think we should begin this conversation with understanding the concept of giving and also the misconceptions about giving.
For the Christian, and I would like to start from there, giving starts with the very essence of being, and that is God. And the most popular passage you would ever hear is John 3:16. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And in that phrase, in that short sentence, you have the depth and the fullness of what it means to be a giver. The concept of giving is intricately tied up with the concept of love. Love is the motivation for giving, genuine giving, sincere giving, or the right form of giving is always underguided by love. Without love, every form of giving is is suspicious.
So there are givings that are not done in love.
In love, and that giving in love, and that's what God, our Creator, did when He created us. He actually gave Himself, you know. And Bible says God breathed on us, and we became living souls, you know. And that's out of His depth of love. There's a scripture that says He has loved us with an everlasting love, you know. So in that, God describes how we should approach the issue and the concept of love and giving, the concept of rightful giving, and the concept of reward-based giving. Because giving actually should also be rewarding, you know, if it is done rightly. God loved and loves us. He looked at our situation. Man is in sin. The Bible will tell you that man fell. The Quran will tell you that he slipped. You know. But whichever religious orientation you look at, man is not in his rightful perfect state. There is a shift. There's been a shift from where the Maker wants us to be and where we are in our realities. And right from the beginning, actually, when man sinned in the garden, God, out of his foreknowledge, had made a preparation, a provision for his redemption. Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, in Bible student parlance, you know, it's called the proto-evangelion. That is the first place where God gives an idea that he's going to do something about Adam and Eve's sin. You understand? He placed the judgment on man, he cursed the earth, then he cursed the snake, the serpent, and he told the serpent that the seed of the woman he's going to bring the seed of the woman to crush his head, and he will bruise his heel. And in talking of seed, he was talking of seed, not seeds. So there was a particularity to what God was saying there. So right from that garden where the sin was committed, the solution was proffered.
A reconciliation plan.
The plan of God to bring man back to himself, to his rightful state. And prophets, kings, wise men, sages of different orientation, they kind of were having ideas. They were seeing snippets of this future. Many of them could not capture it all, but they were seeing it. Isaiah, for one, was one who saw part of his birth, he saw part of his crucifixion and his sufferings. You know, Micah, you know, Joel, they all had snippets of visions of this coming. When Isaiah was talking about him, that a child will be born to us, But that child that is born to us is not just a physical child. He is a son given to us. You know, Isaiah chapter 9. When Isaiah was talking about that, he was like 600 years before. I mean, when you look at Nigeria, Nigeria is not yet 100 years as a nation. But when they are talking about Nigeria's independence, if you're like me, if we're in the same bracket, I'm quite young, independence looks like something that happened many light years ago. But it's less than 100 years. And we're now talking about the gap of about 600. So multiply where we are down to like times 10. That's the gap between when Jesus would be born and when Isaiah was speaking. And he was speaking, the child will be born to us, the son will be given, and the governance, the rule, the burden of the rule will be upon him. His kingdom will continue to advance and increase. And his names will depict his purpose and his nature. You know, he will be called, you know, the everlasting Father, the wonderful Counselor, mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. You know, gives that encapsulates everything. God was walking in love. Right through all these periods that the process was being unveiled and unfolded, men were trying other things, and God was keeping them busy with other things. And all those other things that happened in the New Old Testament were just images of the real thing.
Okay, I like this, you know, deep meaning you have given to this attitude of giving. Some Nigerians still see this Boxing Day as an extension of Christmas Day, while some see it as even a day, you know, to go and shop or to have a party. So how do we begin to now redirect, you know, people's attention to this deeper meaning?
Okay, I think if you look at the biblical foundation for a Boxing Day event will be the visitation by the wise men, the Magi, from the east. The Bible said that they came bearing gifts. Western culture, Western traditions boxed it all in 3 men because they came with 3 gifts. The Bible didn't talk about 3 men, just talked about wise men. But because they came with 3 particular gifts, some assume that that number is not essential. The issue is that they came bearing gifts, and those gifts were significant to his life and his purpose. I won't go into that. But out of that, one could bring out the tradition of, after Christmas, then there's a Boxing Day. But Western culture also has a Boxing Day tradition that grew out of the early church. You know, some will tie it to the activities of the Bishop St. Nicholas of Myra. Is in Turkey, present-day Turkey, and how he would do a lot of acts of kindness. He would drop coins in the shoes of poor people. You know, girls that didn't have their, what do you call this money you pay when you're supposed to marry? You know, that dowry. You know, it's the women that were supposed to pay it, some other traditions like India and so. So he would, and if they don't pay, they get in trouble. So he would pay off because he had all these things he was doing secretly, you know, and then that tradition was carried from Turkey in Africa as Europe also was getting the gospel. It went into the Nordic countries, went into Dutchland, and then St. Nicholas became Santa Claus. And Santa Claus got to America as Santa Claus. Those are some of these evolutions that happened with some of these traditions. Now, but the truth of it is that in European Western culture, where it was developed as a day, it was a day in which many people would share what they had left over from Christmas Day. They would share with the poor. Leftovers from Christmas Day. It was a day in which some in the early, as the industry was growing in Europe, many of their workers, many workers will work on Christmas Day. So they will give them gifts on the day after, so that they can go off on the day after. So they would give them gifts, give them things. You give a lot to the poor. It was centered around making sure that the joy of the season did not elude the poor and the marginalized.
Okay, talking about giving, Nigerians are known or seen as people who love to give, whether there is a festival or celebration. Do you think that this Boxing Day is still relevant to Nigerians.
I didn't
Because
get the question.
this is what they normally do.
Nigerians are givers. We love to give.
Are generally givers. They like to give. Do you think that this Boxing Day is, significant
to us
or necessary to us as Nigerians? Because when we're not even celebrating anything, we're giving.
I like that question because it takes me back to my first answer. The motive for which God gave was love. But in God, there is a way to give that is acceptable, that is blessed, that has eternal impact. When you say Nigerians give, it's true, we give.
We always give.
We're also good takers.
okay.
But sometimes the way we give is very questionable. I remember many years back, I was in my early 30s. I just resumed the pastorate of the church. And it was a very small church. We didn't have doors, we didn't have windows, we didn't have... I can remember the brother that brought the first SMC ceiling fan. That's over 20 years now. And just a few people in that congregation were okay, wealthy, maybe middle managers in the banks and oil company. And those were the people that formed the executive also. And we would have meetings and somebody would say, let's go to church, let's ask people who will give money to buy this, to stand in the service. And I would scratch myself and say, look,
stand for recognition.
Why do we need to go to Sunday service?
Sure.
We can, in this
to
school meeting,
wait?
Why can't we just take a decision? This my salary is so small, you all know it, you fix my salary. But I'm ready to give this now. Why can't we just give now? Because when we get to that place, is the people here that would either have to stand or not. So why do we need that standing in front of the people?
So everyone can see.
So it was a serious issue. And then one couple came one day, very sincere couple, and they said, Pastor, we need you. We have friends that are pastors in other churches. Why are you so adamant on not doing this thing? This will bring money, money will come. And I said, sit down. I like the fact that you came like this and you came with your Bibles. So I made them to realize that there is a right way for giving. There is a dignified way of giving. Even if you are going to give the poor, there is a dignified way that you can give a man and not strip him of his humanity. And that's one of the areas that, yes, Nigerians give, but we need to look at. When you look at giving in God, I dropped out some notes. Giving has to be out of love. That's the first thing. And I hope our politicians are actually watching this. I'm throwing shades now. I hope it's acceptable.
They're shaking tables.
Well, I don't work here. I'm sorry for you people. You are the ones that work here. Giving has to be with humility. You want to give, but you are giving in such a way that you want to be celebrated.
There are millions of cameras in front.
Everybody. I mean,
jamboree.
There's this only one they do now on social media, where somebody will say it's a social media influencer, and you pack money, and you go and deceive a girl, and say, take up your clinic, I'll give you, and then that one you want to do it, or she has even done it, and then you now say, you know what, I want to help you. You now bring that bundle of money, and I'm like, are we not missing out certain categories that should be in the psychiatric? Humility is very essential, whether you are giving to God or man. Whether you are giving to God or man, we should be humble in our giving. Jesus Christ, the Bible says in Philippians 2:6-7, he said, being in the very nature God, he did not consider equality with the Godhead something to be used to his own advantage. What did he do? He made himself nothing by taking on the very nature of a servant. That's Jesus Christ. He took on the nature of a servant. Do you know how much he would have made if he had just, rather than be born in the manger, he was just dropped from heaven in full ripe old age, in one very amazing fashion, light eminence, and he lands in Jerusalem, and Herod and everybody's trembling, and all the soldiers are bowing. You can start a ministry and make money. So humility is essential.
Okay.
Sacrificial giving is essential. Giving sacrificially. Now, that is one thing that does not really include most of our giving now. We give within our convenience. The giving of God, when I look at God and I look at Abraham, God brought the Messiah through his lineage. He brought us the people of Israel through his lineage. But there were certain things that God saw in Abraham. The one that's fascinating to me was that God wanted to send his son, but he needed a man who was willing to give his son. Do you understand? So he tells him, wake up. That child that you've been waiting for all these years, you made mistakes here and there, tumbled and tossed you. Now you have him. But tomorrow, this morning, I want you to wake up, leading your donkeys, go to the mountain moves or ranges of Moriah, and I want you to sacrifice him to me. He didn't even have time to converse with his wife. Of course, that would have led to a dead end.
Oh, yeah.
But what am I saying there? Sacrifice in the giving. God would want to do that ultimate sacrifice to a man who is willing to sacrifice. Giving to be sacrificial. David said, I won't give God anything that didn't cost me.
Nothing.
And giving should be cheerful. We should not be out of compulsion and out of duress, manipulation. And that's one area that I want the churches today to consider.
I was going to ask you the role of faith-based organizations and how they have influenced the act of giving.
We need to tone down, stop guilt-tripping people into giving, because that kind of giving might fund the church or the organization, but it does not please God. Anything you give God and you are in pain and you are not happy and you are second-guessing yourself, God is not happy with it.
Okay, this will lead me to my next question. Now, in a society where we have economic challenges, where things are right now in the country, how do people give without feeling burdened? Or how can people share without feeling burdened?
The first thing is that we should refocus the whole concept of giving from funds.
It doesn't have to be money.
There's so much that can be given that is more than money.
List them.
You have skills that you can give that will change your life.
Okay.
Some people, do you know that some people, I learned from being a pastor that some people, what they need from you is just your presence. They don't even need your conversation. They just want you to listen. It's one of the most difficult things to give. A listening ear is very difficult to give. A listening ear. And you'll be surprised that in Europe, in Americas, and all these advanced countries, people actually pay to be listened to. They go to somebody who is called a psychiatrist, therapist, who is not writing anything. He's just scribbling his paper. He might even be drawing comic characters. And you just be talking. When your time is up, along with sound, next person will come in. Your next appointment is also day. You pay the money before you come. People be just bombarding. These are some of the things that giving gives skills, resources, your social currency. You don't have the money, but you can give this person a contact that will change their life forever. Do you understand? There are people who have that and they will not use it until they lose that influence. So when they had influence, they did not use it for anybody. And when they are on the way down, there was nobody to help them. Because all the people they passed on the way up were still helpless. You understand what I'm saying? I was talking in a group and we were talking about someone who had opportunity to assist us, young people, and then the person went up, it was a meteoric rise. And the person just didn't. Someone like myself, others kept quiet. I approached and said, look, I have this gift, take me along on this journey. I'm not even asking for a freebie. I can assist. And I don't know, the person was just, the thing was just, the sky was just blue and everything was good. And then along the line, things started going wrong and things went south and this person needed us. The truth was that it wasn't even that we were beefing. It wasn't a case of beefing. We just could not help at that level. All of us that should have been there to help. And somebody in our gathering said, this guy had positioned us. This problem would have been a child's play. And that's a lot to learn in our society. So in our society, people need to learn how to give properly in such a way that will retain the humanity of the next person or the society, and then honor God. You know, giving cheerfully and the rest of the things, give in such a way that God will be glorified. You know, and when I look at the political class, I see us build a bridge for 10 years, a bridge that they will couple in 3 days in one country, and they will put it there, and the people living in the area will be confused. And then after we put it, they will now put tents there. We call a lady, Sonia, and everybody will come. We bring guests, and we begin to celebrate. And I'm like, no, you know, I studied urban planning as my first degree. I'm like, yet I know the bridge at yet I party will look you. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to speak around this one.
Yes, you can. Yes,
okay. So, and I'm wondering, you know, this does not glorify God. We need to start looking at how, in our giving, we dignify humanity and glorify God.
Okay. I also want you to talk about the rewards that, you know, some believe that not just the giver, not just the receiver is the one that is getting rewards. Also, the giver is also, you know, getting rewards from God. I'd like you to speak about now the emotional and psychological effect of, you know, giving. What did you call it now?
Honoring, with honor.
Giving with honor and humility.
There are certain principles in the Bible. The Bible says that whoever gives to the poor is lending to God. That's one. Then the larger one is the law of sowing and reaping, which also covers giving. It says, as long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest time will never fail. You understand? Apostle Paul spoke expressly about the issue of giving. He said that when you give, you understand? When you give properly, there is a reward. You understand, from God. You know, so that even in your further reaping, in your eating, and in your capacity to give further, you will not lack anything. So when you're speaking to it and bringing it to the you know,
I'm looking about emotional,
you know, the emotional part of
yes.
it. You see, when you give, one of the things that learning to give, starting the journey of being a giver is the only painful part. The beginning is painful. But when you are mastered on that way, it gives you joy. Number one is this. You see, giving is therapeutic. You see, many times we need to declutter.
That's what I was talking about this morning.
You see, I grew under a mother who, when I didn't understand, will tell me that these clothes that you are not worn for 6 months, pack them. I want you to pack them up, wash them, and give it to me. Where was she taking it? She was taking it to S1S.
You didn't know where it was when you were.
I don't know. There's one place where S1S that she will pack clothes. She will pack different clothes, clean them up, prepare them, and take them to S1S. You can't have clothes that you're not wearing. You can't have shoes that you're not wearing. Many of us, we have wardrobes that are full, spill over to other rooms, and then on Sunday morning we wake up and go to the wardrobe and say, I don't have anything to wear. It's a sin statement.
And we women, we say
we
that
do it a lot.
I didn't want to go there because I want to go safe and be safe.
And you're surrounded by women here.
So I just want to be safe today.
We say it a lot.
And they will say, I didn't have anything to wear. Or you enter a kitchen and you say, I don't have anything to cook. And somebody else will enter that same kitchen untouched and bring out a whole meal. It's a matter of perspective. When you begin to give, you begin to feel light. Let me put it that way. Then apart from that, one of the beauties of giving is that, you see, joy is contagious.
Do you know that's her name?
That's my name.
So you're contagious.
Yes.
So, you know, have you ever seen a child who is happy just crying? Do you know how you feel when a child is happy because of what you think is a small thing? That child receives a pack from someone somewhere else, and it's the toy that he wants, and the child begins to cry. Do you know the kind of joy you get from the fact that simple acts of kindness can make people happy? I've seen it over and over. You know, it's something that many of us in our society, where we've mastered the art of hoarding, need to reconsider.
And that's another guilty pleasure of women.
Yeah.
You can hoard and then we still say we
It's
don't
not only
have
women
it.
that hoard you. It's just like what we hoard. What you hoard,
Yes.
they are in the house. It's
Yes.
evident. What the
Yes,
men
yes.
hoard, they are in the garages. They hoard cars, all kinds of things. Some of them are in the office.
A lot of tables have been shaken today. So I want to ask, how do you balance public giving and private giving? Because there are times that you want to give and it's public. How do you balance it? How do you ensure that you keep your motives in check, that you don't want to do it out,
spiritual.
you don't want to do it out of
show off.
show off, or you want to be recognized, you want to be seen?
And that's why we need to consistently keep on having a conversation with ourselves.
You know, let me tell you something about that. As Muslims, you know, there's this teaching that, look, if you're giving out with your right hand, do not allow your left hand to
know about it.
Yes.
It's in the Bible.
It's also there?
Yeah, Jesus said something.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
But you know, sometimes it can just get into the head.
That
I want to be seen.
yeah,
I want to be publicly
we all have it.
appreciated.
In fact, sometimes when we're not, when you even give and they don't seem,
And they don't say thank you. You feel offended.
We had a case this morning when we're talking about somebody who gave somebody 20K and did not say thank you. We had something like that this morning.
We love to be affirmed. It's in us. So the issue now is recentering ourselves in God, knowing that whatever I'm doing for God.
So even if you don't get a thank you.
Even if you don't get a thank you, as long as your Father never knows. You know, many times Jesus said that when you give so that you'll be seen. It was talking about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He said they carry big trumpeters behind them when they want to give. They want to give so that everybody, that time they didn't have social media, but they did it so that the people themselves were the social media, people will see them. They will do all kinds of services and all kinds of demonstrations so that they will be seen to be doing what they are doing. He said they already have their reward because the people have seen and the people have celebrated you. So God owes you nothing. The motive has been fulfilled. Your motive is that man will see you, man will enlarge and celebrate you. That has already happened. Everything is all is good. God owes you nothing. You understand? But if you do it in such a way that you yourself, you know that it's God I'm doing this for, you do it in the right way, your Father in heaven will see it. Even if the person you did it for did not, in fact, the truth is that if you go through the scriptures, Paul writing pastoral letters to Titus and Timothy and Titus, he kept on telling them, don't get tired of doing good. The reason that people will test your patience when it comes to, and your generosity when it comes to doing good. You will give somebody a gift, say, and you are like, oh, she says, people will test your ability to do good the next time. So he kept on, that refrain kept on coming up, don't get weary in doing good, because he knew that it's part of human nature to abuse it so much so that those who want to explore the route of doing good will be worn out.
I also want you to speak to the entitlement mentality, because a lot of people are entitled.
I think I find that more among the Yorubas. I'm sorry to go cultural.
It's everywhere.
It's possible. I'm sorry.
Because she is from Southeast, so that's why she can tell you.
Some people are entitled.
Why would you say Yoruba people?
I don't know. It's just like we have this Agbole wani, àwọn kini kon family wa, kini kon so family wa, brother wani, sister wani. It's possible. It's across.
I think it's just.
It's a cultural, maybe it's a tribal. It goes across the tribes, maybe.
Traditional, yes. It cuts across. My colleague is looking at you
My
somehow.
Yoruba brother and sister, I'm sorry.
Why would you just label
maybe
label us like that?
I profiled us because it's home to me, and maybe I'm being myopic in that area.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Before they remove before they remove my name from Yoruba Nation. You know that I'm part of it. But the truth is that the entitlement spirit is also a thing that is with us. It's real. It's real. And even in the day of his flesh, Jesus Christ, you know, he healed 10 men. 10 lepers at the border side. He healed 10. Only one came back
to say thank you.
He said, this man is a stranger. The others were Jews. Why did you think they didn't come back? Because they knew that they were children of Abraham. And the healing
is their right.
Is our right. The bread. You know, Jesus told that woman, he said, the bread is for the children. We should not give it to the dog. The woman said, when the children are eating on the table, small will drop. It is in the nature of children to drop food. The dog will eat. And Jesus looked at her and said, hey, this one, I have never seen this kind of faith. So the children of Abraham had this entitlement spirit, egalitarian spirit.
Are they Yoruba people?
Maybe we are having...
Are we descendants of... Are the Yoruba people descendants of the children of Abraham?
I think it's just a human being thing.
Maybe it's a human thing.
It's a human thing.
But even that day, that's what I'm saying, that even in that day and in that climb, they had the same issue. People always thinking that this is our right. You understand? They thought it was their right. But that one, he thought, this man is a Jew. He doesn't owe me anything and he has done this for me. This doesn't look like an ordinary man. And he put 2 and 2 together, figured, and he went back to him and worshipped him. And Jesus made a point to let the people there see. He said, this man is a stranger.
Interesting conversation today.
Yes, we have learned a lot this morning. And as we wrap up today's this conversation, it is important to note that Boxing Day is not just about unwrapping gifts. It's about love. It's about humanity. It's about selflessness. It's also about thoughtfulness that it represents. We would like to thank, we want to thank Reverend Dr. Olurotimi Taiwo. He's the chaplain, Lagos State Chapel of Christ the Light, Alausa. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. God bless you.
The conversation continues shortly.